With round 2 of the AFL home and away season completed, it's time to release our round 2 power rankings. It must be noted that our power rankings is a ladder based on a team's form and has little correlation to the win-loss ladder the AFL uses in an official capacity. We do try to take out as much bias out of our rankings as we can, but admit we can get it wrong on occasion. The form of any given team is based on how well they are performing and the quality of opponents they've either won or lost against in recent weeks. We believe then that the higher ranking team will beat a lower ranked team on most occasions. With that in mind, my name is Ryan from AFL Access, and this is the Round 2 AFL Power Rankings. It will surprise no one that Essendon have retained 18th position on our rankings. Playing poorly for a second week in a row and showing a complete lack of energy and effort, the Bombers need a serious rethink before tackling even this week's game. Just quickly before moving on, we would like to apologise and correct a mistake made last week. Last week's video proclaimed that the Bombers ran roughly 100 kilometres less than GWS over the course of the game. This was revealed after we released our video that this was in fact due to faulty GPS data, and was corrected about a day later, revealing the distance travelled to be roughly the same. 17th position was actually quite a hard one to pin down for us, but based on form, it has to go to North Melbourne. They have come up quite short by the end of both games this year, and haven't been spectacular in a lot of the key statistics so far either. Their game plan hasn't adjusted enough to the new rules brought in the off-season, and it may take a few more rounds for them to gain some momentum. So 16th spot gets taken by Melbourne, who despite being smashed by Geelong, somehow dominated the inside 50 count. The Demons are doing some things right, and really only need a bit of tweaking to get things rolling for them. The problem is though, to go inside 50 117 times for only 32 scoring shots over the last 2 weeks is a really damning statistic that isn't easy to overcome. It means that the forward line is highly dysfunctional right now, and also pushing very far up the ground. The team is working very hard to get the ball into a vacant forward 50. 15th falls to the Sydney Swans, apparently the best 0-2 team in the history of the AFL. They are the only team to start a season 0-2 and still make finals on every occasion, so they at least have history on their side. What they don't have, however, is form. They were very, very poor against the Bulldogs in round 1, and despite being a close game against Adelaide for most of the night, never looked likely to win. The SCG woes for Sydney could be ongoing. Carlton come up to 14th spot on our power rankings. Despite the Tigers running away with the game in round 1, the Blues were valiant up until about the last 10 minutes of the game. They were just as hard, only for a little bit longer against Port Adelaide in round 2, and actually looked likely to cause an upset until about 5 minutes left. Carlton are a much better side this year, and it's only a matter of when, not if, they will get a win this year. A fall from grace, and landing in 13th spot is Richmond, the team most pundits had as a premiership favourite going into the season. They were troubled late by Carlton in round 1, and with Alex Rance going down with an ACL, struggled tremendously against Collingwood. Richmond were possibly the most comprehensively beaten team in round 2, and good teams don't get smashed in every KPI. And by smashed, I mean records were broken for the team. With Jack Riewoldt out for 2 months, the Tigers need to lick their wounds and restructure quickly if they want to rebound from this. Adelaide comes in at 12th position. They haven't been particularly clean with the ball so far this year, and it's clear they aren't going to be the same explosive side that took them to a grand final in 2017. There is a lot to improve on with this group, but we saw it improve in round 2 compared to round 1. If the Crows can trust their long kickers a bit more to take those shots, then the high scoring team of 2017 could be back in town. Also, Seedsman was robbed for Goal of the Year nomination.
Big opening term. Let's have a look. The barrel. Going all the way!
11th comes to GWS, which may surprise some as they were number 1 last week. If we are honest, the smashing of a pretty mediocre Essendon put rose-coloured glasses over our eyes, as the Eagles exposed GWS's poor ball movement. With no tools in their attacking half outside of Jeremy Cameron, who isn't known for launching into packs and throwing his weight around, the Giants simply had no genuine targets to kick to. We saw glimpses of the old Orange Tsunami come back, which was a thing of beauty, but they'll need a better focal point, or at least some more precision when moving the ball forward if they want to contend for the premiership this year. We give 10th position to Fremantle, who despite their massive percentage gave away far too many scoring shots to Gold Coast and let a winning game slip from their fingers. Bringing Jesse Hogan back in seemed to be counterproductive for their forward line cohesion, although Cam McCarthy looks to keep his spot a while longer. It also shows that when playing against Witches hats in round 1, even mediocre teams can look magical. We expect Freo to play well at home this year, but struggle on away trips. Just outside the 8 sets the Suns, who have looked the goods so far this year. They narrowly lost to the Saints in round 1 and snagged a cheeky win against Fremantle in round 2. If they can maintain this level of play across the season, then they may find themselves a cheeky chance to play finals. They'll be tested against the Bulldogs this round and we'll get a better reflection of how they are travelling after round 3. Hawthorn takes 8th spot on our list this week. The Hawks appear to be a very well structured team this year, which will win them a lot of games. They look a little unclean in the early games, which is evidenced by their 4th quarter capitulation against the Bulldogs in round 2. The game was theirs to lose, and they lost it. West Coast enter the top 8 and perch themselves in 7th position. After a taxing game in Brisbane, in which they were soundly defeated, the Eagles look to coast to an easy victory against GWS, especially after half-time. They will be a force to be reckoned with at home, but are we going to see a return to their travel woes? With Andrew Gaff returning in round 3, the grand final rematch against Collingwood will tell us a lot about their premiership defence. 6th spot goes to the Saints. Say what you will about them, they have gone about their business so far this year and gotten the wins on the board. A tight win against Gold Coast shows their mental toughness to close out games, but their goal-kicking woes of 2018 returned in round 2. The Saints should have won that game by a much larger margin, and we can only hope that this is a blip on the radar in regards to goal kicking. We can't deal with another 2018. If they win against Fremantle in round 3, then this team needs to be taken a little more seriously. In 5th position lay the Bulldogs, who've hardly put a step wrong so far this year. They controlled most of the game against Sydney in round 1 and waited until the 4th quarter to blitz the Hawks in round 2. There is a feeling that the 2016 Dogs have returned, and it's hard to ignore. Collingwood edge into the top 4 this week, sitting at 4th position. After losing a close game against Richmond in round 1, they completely embarrassed Richmond in round 2. Their game styles were completely contrasting between games as well, with the Pies looking to control the ball a lot more against Richmond. It adds a new feather to the wings of the Pies, or rather the Magpies, and having Mason Cox in their forward line should give us a clear understanding of this team's form after round 3's grand final rematch against West Coast. 3rd spot goes to Port Adelaide, who simply have gone about their business so far this year. Carlton slightly troubled them in the wet in round 2 before the experience of Port shone through in the last quarter. Coupled with their convincing win against Melbourne in round 1, and Port Adelaide are setting themselves up to at least see if they learned their lesson from 2018. Don't wet the bed this year. Please. Who'd have thought that the Brisbane Lions would be in 2nd position? They thrashed the reigning premiers in round 1 and showed they can travel this year by beating North Melbourne in round 2. Brisbane trailed for much of the day against North, but showed that this group has built resilience and is now able to close out games. It's a warning to other clubs as well. These young Cubs can seriously play, and a lack of a runner on the ground actually helps them. 1st spot goes to the Mighty Cats. They've beaten Collingwood in a close game in round 1 and decimated Melbourne in round 2. Geelong look to have finally put the pieces of the puzzle together, whilst also blooding new players into their team this year. In fact, such is their form so far this year, they are now highly expected to have a real crack at the premiership. Round 2, we know, so let's not get carried away just yet. A trip to Adelaide may just warrant a booking of a holiday in September though. Let us know in the comments below if you agree with our power rankings for round 2. There will also be a card that you can vote on in the top right corner of the screen. We should bear in mind that these rankings are using a small pool size of information, so will fluctuate heavily week to week until about 5 rounds in. So if you think your team wasn't ranked high enough, be sure to tell us how wrong we are in the comments below. Or if you want to discuss it with us on a more personal platform, join our Discord with the link in the description. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe and ring that bell to receive notifications when new content goes live. This has been your AFL Access.